welcome to this, and this is the actual pay-per-view review of WrestleMania 25. I did my comments live from being there, but of course I didn't do an actual pay-per-view review because I just don't like doing that, because when you're there live, it is a very different experience than watching it at home, and so I'd much rather just watch it like you guys watched it and review it that way. I think that's kind of a fairer way to do it in a lot of ways, because I think it's just a better way to do it. But anyways, with all that said, as you can tell, I took the evil shirt off. I put this shirt back on, yes, because the evil shirt I might burn after watching WrestleMania again, that I bought at WrestleMania. Nah, not really. I really like the shirt. It's just I hate who the shirt supports. But anyways, so I'm torn with the shirt. Anyways, so let's get ready to go with this review. I've heard a lot of people talk about this WrestleMania. It's been a bit of a controversial WrestleMania. So, in some ways, let's get started. We started with Money in the Bank. Of course, live. This was not the first match, but I will get to that later. Well, I'll talk about that now. I will sit here and tell you that, that once the DVD comes out, the tag match is without a doubt, I think, not have seen it, on DVD. But I would imagine it will be a good to a very good match. Probably either the third or fourth best match on the card. A very good, solid match. It was unfortunate it was not on the pay-per-view, because I think it would have helped the pay-per-view a lot. So, unfortunately, there is that. But it was a very good match. I said this on my other match, or on the live review. So, it's kind of unfortunate. I think the pay-per-view could have used it. So there we go. Start off with Money in the Bank. Not the best Money in the Bank in my opinion. In my opinion, this was probably the weakest, but not by very much. I just think that, given the fact that Punk won, and it did feel a little I'm a big Punk fan, but I definitely felt a little anticlimactic that Punk won. Christian was definitely the guy that should have won. I think that would have really would have helped the match in a lot of ways. But what are you going to do? I know there's been a lot of talk after this, about the fact that, Punk got booed on Raw. Apparently I haven't seen Raw yet. Just have been too busy. I have a TiVo, just have not watched it. And a lot of people are wondering, why people turned on him. And I think it's because fans don't have any confidence that WWE is going to do anything different with him than they did the last time, so they don't care. And that's part of the problem when they give these guys a chance, is that they too often just don't give them the chance. I mean, if you really wanted to help Punk out, you know what you would do? You would have Randy Orton go out there, and Legacy, and beat the crap out of Triple H, and then have CM Punk go out, pin Triple H, and have CM Punk kind of be Orton's right-hand man in Legacy. And maybe even have him feud with Batista, and have a long-standing feud with Batista, and have CM Punk beat Batista, and actually try to elevate Punk up to that type of status. If you don't do that, what's the purpose? And that's kind of the problem. That was the problem when he won last time. It looked like a fluke victories. They should have, put him in a program with Randy Orton. It would have helped him. They completely botched that. So I think that's why we saw that. And Christian was the guy most people wanted to see. And, WWE's not ready to pull the trigger on that. But it'll be interesting to kind of see where it goes from there, I guess. But this had a lot of good spots, without question. Kofi and Shelton busted their asses. I even think that that Mark Henry served a good purpose. I mean, you saw them use him very well, especially the spot with Kofi, where he caught Kofi. That was an awesome spot. I'm sorry, some people might not think of it. Also, live, I like the tease of him taking the dive. At some point, they're going to have to let him do that, because that was pretty good. But I think they used both him and Kane very well. I think all the guys did very well. There was only the two, I would say, the unprettier off the top was, I wouldn't call that a major botch. the MVP Shelton thing, I would call that kind of a major botch. But other than that, I thought this was a lot of fun and was a good opener and really served its purpose in a lot of ways. Then we got the Kid Rock concert melody thing. Didn't work too well on pay-per-view. I didn't think it probably did. But, oh well, kind of what are you going to do? You know, I'm not sure why they did that. I'd imagine part of it had to do with the fact that the National Guard, of course, sponsored WrestleMania, and he's currently kind of the big seller of the National Guard with his new song. I can't even think what it's called. I'm a Warrior, I think is the name of it. But that's probably had something to do with it. But anyways. And we had the Diva Battle Royal. This was a lot of fun live, not so much on pay-per-view. I definitely am giving this a dud. The fact that they did not do entrances on the pay-per-view hurt this completely. This sucked because of it. And then, you know, the whole thing with them not saying who Santino really was dumb as well. This was just stupid. Even though the end was fun, but the rest of it was just so bad, it wasn't even saved. So yes, it gets a dud. Then we had Chris Jericho, Roddy Piper, Ricky Steamboat, and Ricky fucking Steamboat, I should say, and Jimmy Snuka. I thought this was okay. I really did. I thought this was a lot better than I thought it was going to be, even on the pay-per-view. Live, it was a lot of fun. I think on the pay-per-view, it was a lot of fun as well. Particularly, you know, they got Roddy out of there. They got Snuka out of there. It was kind of sad at that moment. And then Steamboat got in there, and the shit was on. I mean, dear God, this was so great to see Ricky look so good. I know a lot of people, you know, are probably have complained and probably will complain about the fact that he missed a couple spots, but come on, the guy went out there and busted his ass and put on a really good match, and the fans were into it. It made you believe. If it had just been Ricky and Jericho, I think this could have been a good to very good match, and but unfortunately, that's not what we got. I think even if you just stopped the match there, I think it would have been good. But then we got the Mickey Rourke thing. I do think the Mickey Rourke thing fell flat on pay-per-view. The punch wasn't very good, which hurt it. Blah. Just was, you know, hurt it. So it gets 2.5 because of that. If it wasn't for that, I'd definitely say it was a pretty good segment. So there we go. We got Matt Hardy versus Jeff Hardy. This was a good match. I think it would have been great if they probably would have been given the time. I've read a lot of places that supposedly they got kind of shortened a little bit, and because of that, you know, but it definitely felt like the match needed to be longer. I still, on pay-per-view, I think the ending was even better than it was live, and a lot of the spots really worked. Was good. I wouldn't call it great, but just a good match. Really enjoyed it, and there we go. There. Then we had JBL versus Rey Mysterio. I give this a star. A lot of people probably say that might be overrating a little bit, but given the fact of, as a segment, as far as from the point JBL came out to the point JBL said I quit, I think that it served its purpose, was good. You know, Rey got to beat the evil cowboy and, you know, make him look like a fool. He quit. Some people would say that's not a great use of Rey. You know, probably so, but, you know, this match wasn't going to be that good anyways. So I think, as far as that goes, I think this was a good use of this, and I do think it was fun. So there is that to say. Okay, had to clear my throat as we get to the next match. The awesomeness that is the next match. Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. Where do I fucking begin with this? From the entrances, this was awesome. Watching it on pay-per-view, live, I think the entrances were very cool. On pay-per-view, it was even more epic. Seeing Shawn descend from the heavens, seeing Undertaker basically ascend from hell with the fire and the brimstone. Shawn kind of as of, you know, the anti-Taker. outfit coming out. The entrances were awesome. Then they started. Shawn, ducking and moving. A lot of good little play there. Just awesome stuff. The crowd was into it. Shawn working over Undertaker's leg. Undertaker basically playing the power moves, the chops. Let's see, what else? Undertaker's dive, almost killing himself. That was crazy. And, live that hurt the match, but watching on pay-per-view because of Jim Ross, and I'm going to say this, Jim Ross actually made this match even better than it was live, because Jim Ross is just the fucking man, and that just made this that much more awesome, in my opinion. So when he did the dive, and he landed, and he looked like he was dead, and they just kept going, I thought it actually worked better on television, so that was cool. Then they started, changing their finishers and the near falls, and, Undertaker, after the tombstone and just the disbelief that Shawn Michaels kicked out. Just awesome stuff. Watching it again, I marked out just as much as I marked out the first time. And the last 10 years, a lot of people have said this is maybe the best match the last 10 years. I don't know about that. But I definitely would say it's one of the best. I will say this. I marked out for this match. There's only 2 matches the last 10 years I've probably marked out more for than this match. One was the Ladder War, which I would have given 5. And I've said this before. That would have been a 5-star, probably 5-star plus, if it wasn't for the fact that the botched ending, and that was a very botched ending. I mean, that was if it wasn't for that ending, that would have been a 5-star match, no question. And the just absolute just wonderfulness, and I watch this match a lot. I still watch it probably, every couple of months, which is the first Dragon Gate 6-man and Ring of Honor, which is just such a goosebump type of just awesome thing to watch, in my opinion. Other than those 2 matches, I marked out those are the only 2 matches I marked out more for this. This was just awesome. Not only that, but I've heard some people say this might be the 3rd best WrestleMania match of all time. I would agree with that. Brett and Austin is definitely better. To me, that's one of the top echelon best matches in my opinion of all time. And then you have Shawn and Razor, the ladder match, which I still love watching, even after all these years. That was the first one, and still, you can watch it, and it's still, in my opinion, just as good as when they did it the first time. So, other than those 2, I think this is it. This was just an absolutely just phenomenal match, in my opinion. Just awesome stuff, and just fucking great. My God, that was awesome. Then, the guys that had to go on after that, unfortunately, were Edge, Big Show, and John Cena. And actually, the crowd was actually into this because of John Cena. For everyone that hates on John Cena, realize that these guys went out there after that match, and definitely went out there, and I'm sure the WWE didn't think they were going to be able to put on a great match, and felt like this might bring the crowd down a little bit. And I still think, to me, they put on the match I thought they were going to put on, and I still thought it was a good match, a good solid match, and but I definitely think the only reason the crowd was into the match was John Cena, which to me just totally disintegrates every argument that the fact that the crowd was not into the main event because of Shawn Michaels and Undertaker. Because they were into this match, and they were into this match because of John Cena. Love him, hate him, they were into the match because of John Cena. The match was a little, I thought it was very good. I thought they played off a lot of the stuff. I shouldn't say very good, I thought it was good. And just good stuff, and particularly after having to go after what they had to go after. I think they did a very admirable job. I loved, when Edge and John Cena finally figured out, hey, maybe we do need to team up on Big Show. I thought that was a pretty good little moment. Their facial expressions. Of course, John Cena's entrance, a lot of people have talked about it. I thought that was great. Just good stuff, and just a good match. And you know, I think if that had been the main event, I don't think people would be pissed off as much about this pay-per-view as the main event, because as the main event, it was bad. I thought this was okay live, but after watching it on pay-per-view, this was not okay. This was a bad match, and that. And I'm gonna sit here and say this, and people are gonna say I'm just being Truthslayer, the Triple H hater, but anybody that follows wrestling very closely, and most people that, you know, if you want to believe the insiders or not, no, you know, it's believed. Triple H calls his own matches. He calls them while he's out there. If that's the case, this match falls completely on him. This was just boring, anticlimactic. I mean, you know, this was one of those matches that people wanted interference. People expected, you know, the McMahons to interfere. People expected the Legacy to interfere. People expected all of that type of stuff. Some people would say, should that really be in a WrestleMania main event? I don't know if it should be in a main event or not, but it can work. I mean, you can overbook a match and it work. We've seen that. You saw that in WrestleMania 17 with Shane and Vince. You know, that match was overbooked to hell and back, but it was still, at the very least, a good match. You know, some people think it's a great match. So, you know, I mean, you can overbook a match and it work. I think that's what this match needed, because this was plodding, this was boring, this was just like, what the hell are they doing? You know, after the opening segment where they hit their finishers, then it just kind of went completely downhill. And like I said, I definitely think the blame, and I'm not saying that just because, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of the guy. I'm saying that because just from what we know, if the guy's calling his own matches, at some point he should have said, well, the fans aren't buying into this, unless he said, well, the fans aren't buying into this because they're dead because of Shane and Undertaker. Well, then he was widely mistaken, because, you know, you had the John Cena match, which the fans, you know, they weren't completely into. I think they were burnt out, but they were definitely into it. Then you had, just 5 minutes before, you had Steve Austin come out and basically blow the roof off the place. I mean, come on. You know, I don't buy that argument of, well, they were dead and that hurt the match. No, nobody cared about the match because the match was not good. I mean, it was just plodding and slow and just boring. I mean, this was just not fun to watch. And I've heard some people say, oh, well, you know, what did you expect? Triple H and Randy Orton don't have good chemistry. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is definitely the worst match they've ever had. And by far the worst match they've ever had. I actually think they have very good chemistry. I don't know what the hell this was. I don't know who booked this. I don't know what the hell happened. But, dear God, this was a bad match. And definitely hurt the card. I mean, you look at this, you know, you had, you know, and I'll just go by what other people are rating this as much as me. You had a opening match. You had a, you know, pretty good to a great match, depending on how you look. He was better overall, everyone pretty much that it sucked. Then you had, you know, a Legends match, which most people thought, hey, it was better than what it was. It was fun. It was enjoyable. So, hey, that's okay. Then you had Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy. Most people consider that a good match. You had JBL and Mysterio, even though most people, you know, kind of crap on the match. They say, hey, it was fun and it was kind of enjoyable. You had Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. Most people consider that an amazing match. Most people I've seen, it's either, you know, 4.5 to 5. I mean, you know, it's somewhere in between there, and I think that's fair depending on how much, you know, I love Shawn Michaels, I love Undertaker, so I'm probably going to like this more than most people do. That's fine. You know, Edge, Big Show, and Cena, most people consider that a good to a pretty good match. So, you know, still, you're not in a bad, you're into a pretty good WrestleMania territory. And if the main event just kind of delivers, I mean, if it's just, you know, a good match, I think this pay-per-view would be seen as, you know, not one of the better WrestleManias, but it would, or I would say it might even be seen as one of the better WrestleManias. Probably not a top 10 WrestleMania, but maybe a top, maybe a top 10 WrestleMania, maybe. But as it stands, it's just a, it's a good pay-per-view. I wouldn't call it a great pay-per-view, though, and that's kind of what everyone expects WrestleMania to be, particularly over the last, I would say, 9 years or so, I guess. You would probably say that this is, you expect this to be a great show, and when it's not, it feels a little disappointing. But I would definitely say it's not a great show. It's a very good show, though. I think people who are saying this is the worst WrestleMania of all time need to go get their freaking head checked, because there have been far worse WrestleManias than this. Far worse. And comparing this, this is another thing I don't get. I can see comparing this to 18. I still think this is better than 18. But I still wonder why people think 23 is such a horrible pay-per-view. I still don't get that. If I remember right, there was at least 2 great matches on that card. And depending on how much you liked the main event, there were 3 great matches on the card. And just because people didn't like who went over in the main event, they crap on the entire pay-per-view? What's up with that? I don't get it. Explain this to me, please. But, but still, this was, I would say, it was good. I would say 7.75 maybe, because you did have a 5-star match on here. You had 3 pretty good, you had 3 good to pretty good matches on here. I think with the exception of the main event, even the bad stuff was somewhat enjoyable. I mean, even the Divas Battle Royal, seeing Santino do the dance and getting crowned, that was pretty fun and pretty enjoyable. Definitely was not a Raw moment. It was more of a pay-per-view and more of a even WrestleMania moment, I would say. The Legends match, I think, was still really good, particularly for Ricky Steamboat. I think most people seem to truly enjoy that. And I think even JBL and Rey Mysterio, even though it was short, I think that the fact that you got that, I quit moment was still pretty cool. So I think even the bad stuff was good. I just think that was enjoyable. I should say good, but was enjoyable for what it was. It's just that main event, dear freaking God. But other than that, with that, it's what it was, I guess. But yeah, I would say a good pay-per-view, a subpar WrestleMania, if we're going to go with the, what most people consider what WrestleMania should be. But if you go back and look at the video I made last year about the true history of WrestleMania, most WrestleManias have not been that good, folks. But this is definitely not as good as it could have been, because I think that the main event just completely underdelivered. And, oh well. But with that, I am out, and later.